Something just happened in Edmonton's real estate market that we haven't seen in years, and this changes absolutely everything. If you've been waiting for your chance to buy in Edmonton, it's finally here. I'm about to break down the exact strategies that savvy buyers are using to land incredible deals. And I'm also going to expose the missteps that are costing sellers thousands of dollars. You're gonna wanna stay tuned. If you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for your moment to jump into the real estate market, this is what you've been waiting for. That frantic, almost chaotic energy from the last few years, it's gone. And in its place, we have a market that actually can be described in one word: choice. As we roll into the last quarter of 2025, the big story isn't a desperate scramble for homeowners anymore. It's actually a strategic game of negotiations, and the numbers don't lie. In September, the numbers of active listings in Edmonton climbed up to over 7,000, up roughly 25% year over year. While that was happening, sales cooled slightly, bringing the sales to new listings ratio down to about 60%. That shift has officially pulled us out of this intense seller's market that we've been stuck in and into a much more balanced territory. So for a buyer, that is music to your ears. It's actually a door swinging wide open. But for sellers, it's a serious wake-up call. So what does this power shift actually feel like out on the streets? Well, today I'm going to dive into the new player's playbook, and I'm going to share the 3 core strategies that smart buyers are using right now to win in this current market. And for the sellers that are watching this, I'm going to point out the 2 biggest mistakes that are causing houses to sit on the market and collect dust while the competition gets sold. This is the new reality of the Edmonton real estate market, so let's get into it. Okay, so first up, the most powerful tool in a buyer's arsenal right now is targeting what I like to call stale listings. Homes that have been sitting on the market longer than average. And believe me, that number is starting to grow. A year ago, seeing a home last 30 days was kind of strange, and now it's starting to become pretty normal. The average time on market for residential properties in Edmonton has crept up to about 46 days, and the condos are taking roughly 47 days on average to sell. That's over 6 weeks. Sales have noticeably slowed since the summer peak, and listings are way up compared to last year. This is the perfect storm for a good property to get lost in the shuffle. So how do you take advantage of all of this? It starts with changing how you search. So don't just filter by price or neighborhood. Actually start filtering by time on the market. So look for those homes that have been listed for 40, 50, even 60 days. These are golden nuggets. Why? Because you're dealing with a totally different seller mindset here. Sure, in the first week, a seller's optimistic, right? They're holding firm on their price and they're thinking about what their neighbor got for their home 6 months ago. But a seller on day 45, they're starting to feel the pinch. They're making another mortgage payment, they're sick of cleaning the house for showings, and they're watching these brand new listings getting all of the attention. Their goal is no longer about hitting the jackpot, it's actually about getting their property sold. This is where you come in. Not with a crazy lowball offer, but with a smart, data-backed proposal. Your offer should mention the current average days on the market for their type of home, and it should also point out newer similar listings that have popped up at a lower price. You're not just asking for a discount, you're actually showing them logically why the market has repriced their home since they first listed. We're starting to see this work over and over again. Buyers who couldn't catch a break last year are now successfully negotiating 3 to 5% off of asking on homes that have been sitting for more than a month. It takes a little bit of patience and research, but the payoff is easily the biggest advantage for buyers in this current market. So that's the first big opportunity, targeting the listings everyone else is overlooking. But there's another advantage that buyers now have that almost disappeared a few short years ago, and it's quietly becoming one of the most powerful tools. The second strategy is all about bringing back a tool that almost went extinct in the hot sellers market. You guessed it, conditions. For years, buyers were told to go in with 0 conditions, to even have a prayer in the bidding wars. Dropping the financing conditions, skipping the inspections, it was risky, but everyone felt forced to play that game. Well, that game is officially over. With the frantic urgency gone, buyers now have real negotiating power again. Including conditions in your offer isn't just a safety net, it's leverage. Let's talk about the 2 biggest conditions that we need to address: financing and inspections. In this market, the financing condition is non-negotiable. Actually, in my opinion, the financing condition is non-negotiable in any market. But anyway, the financing condition gives you about a week to make sure that the bank agrees with what you are paying for the home and will actually approve the mortgage. That's critical in a market where values are starting to flatten or they're starting to dip month to month. So for example, the average detached home price slipped about 2% between August and September, and condos declined roughly 3 to 4% in that exact same time. So imagine you offer $550,000 for a home, but the bank appraiser says it's worth $535,000. Without that financing condition, you're on the hook for the difference. But with it, you can renegotiate or walk away with your deposit safe and sound. Now let's talk about the home inspection. This is your chance to find any skeletons in your closet, from a leaky roof to a furnace on its last legs. In a seller's market, buyers were just crossing their fingers and skipping it. Today, it's your key to a second round of negotiations. If the inspector maybe finds a hot water tank that's 15 years old and it's on its last breath, you can go back to the seller with the report in hand and say, hey, we still love the house, but we'll need an extra $2,000 off the asking price so we can replace the hot water tank. In a market with over 7,000 other listings, that seller is much more likely to say yes than risking starting over. You're not being difficult here, you're being smart. Conditions don't just protect you, they give you a valid, evidence-based reason to adjust the price after your offer is accepted. So now that you've got 2 major edges, spotting stale listings and using conditions to protect yourself, here's the most successful buyer strategy right now. I'm going to take it one step further. Learning how to identify sellers who are still living in the past, if you will. This third strategy is about spotting sellers who are pricing for a market that simply doesn't exist anymore. I like to call it yesterday's price. So here's the scenario. A seller lists their home in October. When their agent asks what they're hoping to get, they immediately bring up their neighbor's sale from the spring. What they don't get is that the market has completely changed. Sure, year over year, prices are still slightly higher overall, but month to month, trends are clearly cooling down. That sale back in the spring happened when inventory was tighter and buyers were competing for properties. Listing at that same price today with inventory up 25% is a recipe for sitting on the market and collecting dust. Your job as a smart buyer is to spot these overpriced listings. Become an expert, if you will, on what is sold in the last 30 days, not 6 months ago. If 3 similar homes recently sold for $540,000 to $550,000, that $575 listing is your target. It's overpriced and it's probably not getting any showings. The trick isn't to fire off a lowball offer that offends anybody. It's to wait. Let it sit. After a couple of weeks, Your well-researched offer backed by comparable sales won't feel like an insult to the seller. It'll actually feel like information. And in this market, plenty of sellers are still emotionally attached to old price peaks. But by letting data, not feelings, guide your search, you can find a fantastic home that others just scroll right past because it looks too expensive. So those are the three major buyer plays dominating Edmonton right now. But this shift isn't just changing how buyers act. It's also completely changing what sellers need to do to sell their home and get the results they're looking for. So let's flip the perspective just for a minute and talk about the two biggest mistakes that sellers are making that are keeping their homes from selling. Mistake number one is ignoring the new comparables on the market. For anyone thinking about selling right now, the most expensive mistake you can make is clinging on to yesterday's prices. This isn't the market it was 6 or even 3 months ago. With new listings starting to surge, you've got more competition than you've had in a long time. If you're pricing based on what your neighbor got back in the spring, you're setting yourself up to fail. Pricing competitively isn't optional anymore, it's everything. Buyers have options. If your home is 5% higher than a similar one down the street, guess what? You're not even gonna get any bookings or showings. The correctly priced homes are the ones that sell. The overpriced ones are the reason the average days on the markets starts creeping upwards. Your goal is to be the obvious choice in your price range, which means pricing based on sales from the last 30 to 45 days, not wishful thinking. A slightly lower realistic price that gets people in the door will always beat a higher number that just sits there. In this market, the first 2 weeks are critical. Miss on the price from the beginning and you're gonna end up chasing the market down, often selling for less than if you had priced it right from day one. And even if you do get your pricing right, there's another trap that sellers are falling into, and it's costing them deals that they could have easily closed. The second huge mistake sellers are making is not being flexible. In a seller's market, you can name the possession date, refuse repairs, and demand no conditions. But in a balanced market, that attitude can cost you the sale. Today's buyers have choices and they're using them. Let's say you get 2 offers, one full price, but with a 90-day possession. Another $5,000 lower, but closing in 45 days. The one you want, a year ago, you'd ignore the first offer. Now, you seriously would consider it. The same goes for those inspection requests. If an inspector finds a legitimate issue and the buyer asks for a reasonable credit, digging in your heels might send them walking straight down to the next listing down the street. Your goal is to get the deal done. Being unwilling to budge on possession, inclusions, or a small repair is really just a short-sighted move. The sellers who are winning right now understand that a deal is a partnership. They're willing to give and take to make it work. And in a balanced market, being stubborn is the fastest way to not sell your home at all. So there you have it. The Edmonton real estate market in late 2025 is all about opportunity and adjustment. The power has shifted, giving buyers more choice, more time, and more negotiating power than they've had in years. If you felt priced out or frustrated by the competition before, your time has finally come. This is a market that rewards patience, research, and a solid strategy. For sellers, this is a wake-up call. The old tactics that worked a year ago will leave your home sitting on the market today. It's time to price for reality and stay flexible. Navigating this new environment takes a plan that's tailored to you. And if you're a buyer looking to make the most of these opportunities, or maybe a seller needing a clear strategy to stand out, I'd love to chat. All of my contact information is below. Make sure you shoot me an email or give me a call and let's put a winning strategy together for you. And before you go, make sure you go ahead and you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, because I release videos here weekly on the Edmonton real estate market, what it takes for buyers and sellers to get into their next home. So make sure you go ahead, be kind, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and share it with those that it may be helpful for. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon and we'll see you in the next one.